I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts. You know, the ones where everything in your life spirals out of control, and you find yourself doing things you'd never imagined in a million years. But here I am, sharing my story with the world, because honestly, I don't know where else to turn. So buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride. It all started about a year ago. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for 5 years. We weren't the perfect couple by any means, but we were happy, or at least I thought we were. We'd met in college, fell in love, and before we knew it, we were married. We bought a house, settled into our careers, and started talking about having kids. It was the typical suburban dream. But then, things started to change. Sarah began working late more often, and when she was home, she seemed distant. I'd ask her what was wrong, but she'd always brush it off, saying she was just tired or stressed from work. I wanted to believe her, but there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind that something wasn't right. I tried to ignore it at first. I told myself that I was just being paranoid, that she would never do anything to hurt me. But as the weeks went by, the feeling grew stronger. I started noticing other things too. She was spending more time on her phone, and when I'd ask who she was texting, she'd get defensive. She also started taking more care of her appearance, dressing up for work in ways she hadn't before. One night, I decided to confront her about it. We were sitting on the couch, watching TV, and I just came out with it. "Sarah, is there something going on that you're not telling me?" I asked. She looked at me, her face a mix of surprise and guilt. "What do you mean?" she replied, trying to sound casual. "I don't know," I said, struggling to find the right words. "You've been acting differently lately, and I can't help but feel like there's something you're not telling me." She sighed and looked away. "I'm just stressed, that's all. Work has been crazy, and I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed." I wanted to believe her, but there was something in her tone that didn't sit right with me. Still, I didn't push it any further. I told myself that she was telling the truth, that I was just overthinking things. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. And it wasn't long before I found out just how wrong I was. A few weeks after that conversation, I was cleaning up the house while Sarah was at work. I'm not usually the snooping type, but when I came across her laptop on the kitchen counter, I felt an overwhelming urge to check it. I hesitated for a moment, feeling guilty for even thinking about invading her privacy, but that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. I opened the laptop and, to my surprise, it wasn't password protected. My heart was racing as I clicked through her files, not really knowing what I was looking for. I was about to give up and close it when I saw a folder labeled Work Stuff. It seemed innocent enough, but something about it caught my attention. I clicked on it and found a subfolder labeled Private. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside, there were several video files, all with cryptic names like Meeting 1 and Project X. I clicked on the first one, and my world came crashing down. It was a video of Sarah in our bedroom, but she wasn't alone. She was with another man. They were, well, you can imagine what they were doing. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. My mind went blank, and for a moment, I just stared at the screen, unable to process what I was seeing. I clicked on the next video, and it was the same thing. Different day, same betrayal. And there were more. A lot more. My stomach churned as I watched them, each one a dagger to the heart. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was my wife, the woman I'd loved and trusted, and she was cheating on me right under my nose. I don't know how long I sat there, watching those videos, but by the time I finished, I felt like I was in a daze. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something, but I was completely numb. Eventually, I managed to pull myself together enough to close the laptop. I didn't know what to do. Should I confront her? Should I leave? Should I tell someone? I felt so lost, so utterly betrayed. And that's when the anger started to set in. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd been through, after everything I'd done for her, how could she betray me like this? I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. All I knew was that I couldn't let her get away with it. She had to pay for what she'd done, and I was going to make sure she did. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions of everyday life, but inside, I was seething with rage. Sarah must have noticed that something was off, but she didn't say anything. Maybe she was too wrapped up in her own lies to care, or maybe she thought I was just in a bad mood. Either way, she didn't seem to suspect that I knew her secret. I couldn't sleep at night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those videos playing in my head, over and over again. I couldn't escape the image of her with that other man, laughing, kissing, doing things she hadn't done with me in years. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But amidst the pain and anger, a plan began to form in my mind. I knew I couldn't just confront her and let it go at that. I needed to do something bigger, something that would make her regret what she'd done. And that's when I came up with the idea that would change everything. I decided to sell the videos. At first, the idea seemed crazy, even to me. Who would buy videos like that? But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. People paid good money for that kind of stuff, and I knew there were websites where people could upload and sell adult content. It was a dirty, despicable idea, but the more I considered it, the more appealing it became. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was crossing a line, but at that point, I didn't care. She destroyed my life, and I wanted to destroy hers. And if I could make some money in the process, then why not? I spent the next few days researching how to do it. I found a website that specialized in amateur adult videos, and I created an anonymous account. I uploaded the videos, making sure to blur out her face just enough so she wouldn't be immediately recognizable, but not so much that people couldn't tell who she was if they knew her. I titled them things like, Cheating Wife Gets Caught and Unfaithful Wife Exposed, playing into the fantasy that people would pay for. And then I waited. It didn't take long for the videos to start getting attention. Within a week, they had thousands of views, and the money started rolling in. I couldn't believe how much people were willing to pay for them. I was making more money from those videos than I ever had at my job. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the satisfaction of knowing that I was getting back at her in the most humiliating way possible. She had no idea what I'd done, and every time I saw her, I felt a twisted sense of triumph. She thought she'd gotten away with her betrayal, but little did she know, I was the one who was winning. It didn't take long for things to start unraveling. One day, out of the blue, Sarah came home from work, her face pale and her hands trembling. She didn't say a word to me, just went straight to our bedroom and locked the door. I could hear her crying, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I reminded myself of what she'd done, and the guilt faded. A few hours later, she came out, her eyes red and puffy. She looked at me with a mix of anger and fear. "Did you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking. I played dumb. "Do what?" I replied, trying to sound innocent. She threw her phone at me, and I caught it. On the screen was a video, one of the videos I'd uploaded. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, handing her phone back to her. She stared at me, her eyes filled with rage. "Don't lie to me. I know it was you. How could you do this? How could you humiliate me like this?" I shrugged, trying to keep my voice steady. "How could you cheat on me? You brought this on yourself." She looked like she wanted to hit me, but instead, she broke down in tears. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I don't know. I was lost." "Lost?" I repeated, my anger flaring up again. "You were lost? So you thought the best way to find yourself was to sleep with another man?" She didn't say anything, just kept crying. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay, but another part of me, the part that had been watching those videos on repeat in my mind, wanted to hurt her even more. "You think you can just do whatever you want and get away with it?" I continued, my voice rising. "Well, guess what, Sarah? Actions have consequences. You hurt me, and now you're paying the price." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with desperation. "Please, take them down. I'll do anything. Just, please." I shook my head. "It's too late for that. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it." For the next few weeks, things were tense between us. She didn't talk to me unless she had to, and when she did, it was only to beg me to take the videos down. But I refused. The money was too good, and honestly, I was enjoying watching her squirm. Then one day, she dropped a bombshell on me. "I'm going to sue you," she said, her voice cold and determined. "I'm going to take everything you have, and I'm going to make sure you rot in jail for what you've done." I was stunned. I hadn't expected her to fight back like this. But I knew I couldn't let her win. I'd come too far to back down now. "Go ahead," I replied, trying to sound confident. "But good luck finding anything to take. I've already moved all my money into a friend's account. You'll get nothing." She looked at me, her face a mask of fury. "You think you're so smart, don't you? But I'll find a way. I'll ruin you, just like you've ruined me." I didn't say anything, just watched as she stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. In the weeks that followed, Sarah made good on her threat. She hired a lawyer and started the process of suing me for everything I had. But what she didn't know was that I'd already put all my money into a friend's account, just like I'd told her. There was nothing for her to take. I knew the lawsuit would be a long, drawn-out process, but I was prepared for it. I'd come this far, and I wasn't about to let her win now. But then, something unexpected happened. One day, I got a call from my friend, the one I'd given all my money to. He sounded panicked. "Man, we've got a problem," he said. "What is it?" I asked, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "It's Sarah. She found out about the account. I don't know how, but she's threatening to go after me if I don't give her the money. My heart sank. I hadn't anticipated this. I'd thought moving the money would be enough to keep it safe, but I hadn't considered that she might go after my friend too. What do we do? He asked, his voice trembling. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't planned for this. I felt like the walls were closing in on me, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I began to doubt whether I'd made the right choice. But then, an idea came to me. It was risky, but it might just work. Listen, I said, I have an idea. It's going to sound crazy, but trust me, it might be our only shot. I explained my plan to him, and after a long pause, he reluctantly agreed. A few days later, I met with Sarah and her lawyer to discuss the terms of the lawsuit. They were smug, confident that they had me cornered. But I had one last trick up my sleeve. I'll give you what you want, I said, keeping my voice calm. But on one condition. Sarah and her lawyer exchanged glances. And what's that? She asked, her tone dripping with suspicion. I'll give you the money, but you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, I said. You agree never to speak about this to anyone, ever. Not to the press, not to your friends, not to anyone. She frowned, clearly not expecting this. Why would I agree to that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure those videos go viral, I replied, my voice steady. I'll make sure everyone in the world sees them. And trust me, there's no coming back from that. Her face went pale. She knew I wasn't bluffing. She'd seen what I was capable of, and she knew I was willing to do whatever it took to protect myself. After a long, tense silence, she finally agreed. In the end, Sarah got some of the money, but not all of it. I'd made sure to leave enough for myself to start over. She signed the NDA, and as far as I know, she's kept her word. The videos were taken down, and I've since disappeared from her life entirely. I'd like to say that I feel good about how things turned out, but the truth is, I'm not sure how I feel. On one hand, I got my revenge. I made her pay for what she did to me, and I came out of it with more money than I'd ever had before. But on the other hand, I lost a part of myself in the process. Looking back, I realized that I let my anger and pain consume me. I became someone I didn't recognize, someone who was willing to do terrible things just to make someone else suffer. And while I can't say I regret what I did, I also can't say that I'm proud of it. I've moved on since then. I've started a new life in a new city, far away from Sarah and everything that happened. I've tried to put it all behind me, but there are nights when I still think about it, when the guilt and shame creep back in. But life goes on. I've learned a lot from this experience, and if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that revenge might feel good in the moment, but it's a poison that eats away at you from the inside. And in the end, no one really wins. So that's my story. It's not a happy one, but it's real. And maybe, just maybe, someone reading this will learn from my mistakes and choose a different path. Because trust me, once you go down this road, there's no turning back.